Hello and welcome to another episode of Geared Toward Gear. My name is Sean and I am so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're taking a look at a knife from Bestech. It's called the Swordfish. And here's the box. It's a little thrash because this has been around the block visiting a few different YouTubers, but just a standard cardboard box. And here is the knife in all of its glory. This was provided to the Valtac pass around group by Valtac Tactical Gear. So thank you, Val. Excuse me, I just burped. Sorry, this is real life, though. We're not going to edit that out. This was provided by Valtac, so thank you to them for that. I'll leave a link below where you can purchase it from Valtac. And they have a kind of a cool rewards program that I learned about not too long ago, where essentially you create an account and you get a $10 credit, like instantly. So if there's any knife that they sell on their website that you want, you can get it for $10 off just by signing up for an account. So that's pretty cool. So what's the short version? What are we looking at here? We are looking at G10 handles, D2 blade steel, a flipper design as you saw, 8.875 inches overall. It comes in at just under 5 ounces. It is right hand tip up only carry, and the price tag is $52. So nice and budget friendly for a nice full size folder. So that's the Swordfish. Let's do a couple size comparisons. So let's start with the Paramilitary 2 from Spyderco. If we line up the tips, we're going to see that the Swordfish is probably 3/4, close to a full inch longer than the PM2 there. And then we'll bring in the Rat Model 1 from Ontario, and we will see that that is also going to be longer than the Rat 1 by about a half an inch, something like that. So this is a full-size knife, the Rat 1 for sure. The Bestech Swordfish is definitely a full-size knife, being close to 9 inches overall. Bigger than I would typically prefer, but this has been a joy for me to use. So let's talk about the blade a little bit. The blade is 3.875 inches, and your actual cutting edge is going to be 1, 2, 3. Let's try this again. 1, 2, 3 3/4. So that's your actual cutting edge. You do get a kind of a choil there, or something that resembles a choil that you can use for sharpening. So that's nice. It's got a drop point, spear point kind of look to it, depending on which website you look at. You may see this marketed as a spear point or a drop point. It's got this nice full-size swedge running the entire length, which kind of lends itself to that spear point kind of designation there. You'll also notice that it does have a thumb ramp, which you can see right there with a little jimping on it. We'll get to that a little later on. And it's a flat grind. So your grind on this is going to be flat, and it performed really well. I'll say that. Let's talk about the handle. Handle is 5 inches in length. So again, a very much full-size knife. I wear extra large size gloves. I get all 4 fingers on with plenty left over. So it's a pretty big guy for sure. It comes in a few different colors. So this is the green G10 with black. It also comes in orange and tan. All are going to have that black accent up near the blade. What else? It has recessed hardware as far as the handle is concerned, stainless steel hardware. It's got a kind of decorative pivot, which I've mentioned in a couple previous videos. I prefer just standard Torx on both sides. That is my preference. If you want to decorate it around the pivot, that's totally cool, but I do like Torx on both sides. That's my preference. But not a deal breaker by any means. I own plenty of knives that have those decorative sort of pivots. It does have a lanyard hole, and it's a pretty good size. It's going to accept 550 cord for sure. So there's your lanyard hole. It has stainless steel non-nested liners, as you can see. And those are going to be pretty heavily skeletonized for weight reduction. It's going to be maybe a little hard to see, but they took out quite a bit of material in that stainless steel to try to reduce the weight. But again, it still comes in at about 4.87 ounces, but they did take the steps to try to lighten that up a little bit, which I can definitely appreciate. And the texture on the G10, I would say, is kind of mild. I wouldn't quite call it smooth G10, but it does have some grip to it, and it feels nice. Another thing that I'll point out is that the transition from the green G10 to the black is pretty well done for a budget-friendly knife. You know, you can maybe see a little bit of a gap there towards the top on this side, you know, maybe a little bit here and there, but all in all, for a knife at this price point to have the fitment between the two pieces of G10 be that close. And to the naked eye, it looks flawless. You know, if you're holding it as I am, like 2 feet away from you, it looks completely seamless, and it feels seamless. So really well done, I think, on the handles in general. The pocket clip on this guy is going to be for tip-up right-handed only, and I do not love this this pocket clip. So there it is. It rides actually relatively deep. Once you actually get this in your pocket, that's about what's going to be sticking out. So not a whole lot, but I do not like this design really whatsoever. The retention is pretty poor. As you can see, there's really nothing other than the spring tension kind of holding this thing in your pocket. I had no issues with it coming out. It's a large knife, so there's a lot of knife down in your pocket. So I don't necessarily think you're going to lose this knife. I just think it's a poor design overall, and I think they should have gone with something entirely different, but that's what it is. Right hand tip up only. So let's talk about the action on this guy. This is a very well-tuned knife. That's the best way I can put it. Just like you would tune a vehicle to have kind of all things running in unison, this is no different in that the detent, the flipping action, you know, the bearings and the lockup, they all just work together in harmony to create a very, very pleasurable knife to open and to use. So obviously it's a flipper, which we've seen a few times. I alluded to the fact that this runs on ball bearing pivots, and it's just got a great detent, a phenomenal action, a great lockup, and just a superb overall. It's just very well tuned. You can see the lockup there is a liner lock, and it's locking up at about 40%, maybe 30%, somewhere in there. It is quite strong. No up and down, you know, no lock rock, anything like that. Nothing side to side. I can get a little bit of, you know, just flex because it's such a long blade, but there's no actual side to side blade play to speak of. So good on the lockup. Let's take a look at the centering. Perfectly centered right down the middle. So overall, fit and finish on this guy for $52 to get a knife with G10. You know, we kind of come to expect things like G10 and D2 these days in a lot of these budget knives, but to get this much of it being a large knife and to have the fit and finish be what it is in terms of the lockup, the centering, the G10, I think is pretty impressive. It's a good knife. It's definitely a good knife. There's not a whole lot of texture going on here. The only jimping you're going to find here is on the thumb ramp, as you can see there. And let's go ahead and open this guy up and just kind of see that in hand. It's very purposeful. If you kind of sink your thumb into it, it's going to stick and stay right there. If you want to glide past it, you can. And that's kind of how I judge jimping. You guys probably know that at this point. So if I want to go past it and maybe choke up a little bit, I can certainly do that. But the jimping overall is really well done. And that's really the only texture on this knife. And I don't think it needs anything beyond that. With the jimping and just a nice full-size handle, you're going to get a good purchase. And I never had any concerns about losing this thing. So overall, I'm good with the texture. Ergonomics, overall, very comfortable. Again, for EDC grips, no matter which one I used, they were all quite comfortable. I even kind of did some of this kind of grip here. Everything just works. You know, it feels good in the hand. The one good thing about this pocket clip is that just the shape of it, you know, it doesn't protrude too far. When I put this thing in a hammer grip and bear down as hard as I possibly can, I get no hot spot. I cannot, like, if you told me that there was no pocket clip on this knife, I would believe you. That's how basically zero of a hot spot there is. So maybe that's one advantage. And that could partially be due to my hands in that it kind of fits in a meaty part of my hand and it just kind of sinks into that meat, but I feel nothing. So very, very comfortable to use. It performed very, very well. This thing being kind of a longer knife would be great as like a food prep knife, maybe a kind of a backup camping folder, something like that, or just an EDC, you know, because it's got a tip that can definitely do some piercing, some slicing, some chopping. It goes through boxes and cardboard, no problem. I've got a little bit of paper here. We'll just do a quick cut test, because as we all know, this is the single test to tell you how good a knife is. So with that long blade, you can get these nice long strokes, and it just slices like a champion with that D2 steel. So I think they probably did a pretty good job on the heat treat. This has been to at least 5 other people before me. And let me get some fingerprints off the blade. At least 5 other people have handled this and tested it before I did. I've also put this through a bunch of cardboard. I posted some photos of that testing on Instagram. Put it through a lot of apples and packages and things like that. And, you know, during that time that it's seen other people and all the testing that I've done and I've not touched it up, it's still slicing beautifully. So overall, the performance, the design, the ergos, for 52 bucks, I think it's a good buy. And I think Bestech has a winner here. So that's my thoughts on the Bestech Swordfish. Thank you guys all so much for watching as always. I really, really do appreciate it. And thanks again to Valtac for providing this knife for review. So that's it. I will see you next time.